Good evening, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Hilaal Live. My name is Faraz Patel. I would like to thank you, the viewer, for staying with us. You saw my colleague Luqman Shadrack. They were, of course, at the Palestine Solidarity March that took place in Cape Town, and, of course, our team here in Johannesburg attended the one in Sandton. Now, earlier on today, I saw an image of a baby being taken out from the rubble of the bombings in Gaza. It was a video that was posted by Yasmin Mujahid. And again, when you look at that, you have to ask yourself, how much more convincing do you need that what is currently happening in Gaza is close to being a genocide? And if you are still in support of the oppressor who continues to bomb these places, then you, the person, need total reevaluation of what you are as a person in the side of justice. And this is not the first time it has happened. It has happened for decades and decades since the Nakba, which happened in the 1940s. Today, I have a special guest to talk about, of course, what is happening, and from a political point of view. Let me welcome to our studio the Palestinian ambassador to South Africa, Hanan Jarrar. Ms. Jarrar, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, ambassador, and shukran so much for joining us.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for hosting us in such testing time.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Ambassador, I'm sure you looked at probably the same image this morning, and as we speak right now, they're continuing to take bodies from the rubble. We then have a US aircraft carrier that's coming. It makes no sense, but in the eyes of the West, this makes sense right now. The situation is beyond any imagination, isn't it? And as a Palestinian, as somebody who comes from the town of Jenin, who of course suffered very same fate with IDF and Israeli settlers, talk to us from a Palestinian perspective, just how difficult this moment is right now.
I'm here with you today. My heart is heavy for what has been happening in Palestine in the last 4 days in particular, but also for the 7 decades in general. Palestine has been under an Israeli occupation, under Israeli apartheid regime for more than 70 decades now. And what's going on right now is a result of the oppression, of the aggression of an apartheid regime that used to suffocate Palestinians into small Bantustans, that used to oppress Palestinians, to block their proper access to decent life, proper access to schools, to health facilities, to crossing borders, to normal life activities. We have been witnessing massacres in the last 4 days. According to our Ministry of Health, more than 23 massacres has been committed by the Israeli occupation forces in the past 4 days, targeting residential communities, displacing Palestinians, especially in Gaza, from their own homes by bombing, shelling on daily basis, day and night, blind targets. More than 200,000 Palestinians have been displaced in the past 4 days, and they are sheltering now in more than 88 UNRWA schools. Yet the Israeli occupation forces targeting schools, no mercy, targeting hospitals, targeting ambulances, targeting journalists. More than 7 journalists has been killed. The toll death of the Palestinian people up to this moment is more than 1,000 Palestinians. 60% of this toll is Palestinian children and women, all under the eye and the ears of the international community, and with full coverage from and support from the international community, especially the Western and US, who yesterday issued a joint statement openly and fully supporting the massacre, the genocide that Israel is committing against our people up to this moment. Yesterday, the Minister of Defense of Israel did a genocidal statement saying that Gaza will be cut off electricity, will be cut off food supplies, will be cut off water. So you can imagine the humanitarian situation that is very drastic up to this moment. Our Minister of Health announced that electricity will be cut in a few hours from all the hospitals, actually from entire West Gaza Strip. So we are like approaching a human catastrophe in Gaza because of the Israeli occupation and because of 7 decades of Israeli oppression and aggression against our people. Not only this, this morning also and yesterday, Israel used weapons that are prohibited and forbidden internationally, like the phosphor. They consider it like as a war zone, and they are free. Their hands are free to commit war crimes against the Palestinian population in Gaza.
Ambassador, with all that said, and with Israel doing what they can, because it's clear for everyone to see that Israel can do what they want, how they want, and who they want to do it against. And there seems to be no repercussions of that. And that right there is, again, because it's quite clear, they don't care what the international community says, number one. And as long as they have the Americans, President Joe Biden and the United Kingdom, they'll do what they want it doesn't really matter what the rest of the world thinks right now.
This is, first of all, it's not normal. But why? Because the international community is in full complicity and impunity with the Israeli regime. They never hold them accountable for their deeds. Israeli leaders, ministers, they are fascists, and they announce that they are fascists and they want to kill people. They want to wipe Palestinian cities like the city of Hawara and Turmus Haya from the map. Netanyahu said that we want to wipe out Gaza from the map. Where is the international community? Nobody holds these war criminals accountable for their deeds. Nobody listens to our calls in the past 25 years after the Oslo Accord that we are not living a normal situation under an apartheid regime. We are suffocated into small bantustans. Our people are killed on daily basis. Our land is stolen and grabbed on daily basis for the sake of an expansionist settlement, illegal regime. Our people are displaced in mass quantities for the sake of bringing Israeli settlers to live in our land. Nobody of the international community have ever listened to our calls for the violations and breaches of the international humanitarian law and the international legitimacy on this regard. And this is the result. The international community, unfortunately, is in full complicity with the Israeli actions against the Palestinian people. And what we are witnessing now is like full support for the Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people. Even there are some U.S. lawmakers, can you imagine, who should be in line with the international law and international humanitarian law. They are calling Israel to finish them, finish the Palestinian people, finish Hamas for defending the Palestinian people and for defending themselves. It's the first time in the world that the international community asked the victims to denounce self-defense for the sake of an aggressor, for the sake of an apartheid regime.
That's what I wanted to ask, Ambassador, because the West are pressuring the government of Palestine, led by President Mahmoud Abbas, to denounce Hamas. But international law says that Palestine has every right to defend itself. Is that the unity right now that Palestine needs, where every Palestinian is united in one, and that one is to defend its homeland, number one, and of course the honor of Masjid al-Aqsa?
Definitely. As Palestinians, we are one. Hamas, Fatah, Jihad, other political parties, either on the left or the right. We are one. We are Palestinians. And this is democracy. Isn't it this democracy
Yes.
that you have different political factions and you have different points of view and different opinions on different matters? So why, when it comes to Palestine, we have to denounce one of our political factions that, according to international law, they are doing the right thing. International law says that when any country is under occupation, they have all the right to use all the measures, instruments available to defend themselves. What has been done by the international community is that we are in the news, we are under the lights, not because of what the Palestinians are suffering, which has been the case since 7 decades now. It is because what has been done against the Israelis, as if the Israelis are human beings, and the Palestinians, as they called us yesterday by the Minister of Defense, human animals. Well, this is not the case, and we will not accept this. The Palestinian leadership has been subjected to numerous and huge pressure to denounce what's going on right now, and we are not denouncing it, and we will never ever denounce a major component of our people defending the interests of the Palestinian people. When it comes to the crunch, you need to know that all Palestinians are one. Palestine is above everything. We are in a war state. We are facing a genocide. It is an existential matter. We are under existential threat, either to be or not to be. And when it comes to this certain discourse or dialogue, Palestinians are united. Palestinians are one hand, one voice, and this is what we are doing. Now, our Minister of Foreign Affairs is in Cairo in a meeting for the Arab League to request support and to request international protection from the international community.
And we are going to be touching that, but we have to take a break. And after, I continue my conversation with Ambassador Hanan Jarrar. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. I'm still in conversation with Ambassador Hanan Jarrar. Ambassador, just yesterday, the Rafah border crossing was bombed in, as they would say in English, insult to injury, because that now stops any aid from coming to the people of Gaza. Again, showing just the Israeli army is not willing only to punish the people through death, but punish the surviving innocent people from the basic human rights that they deserve.
This is a normal behavior for war criminals. This is a normal behavior for an apartheid regime. They don't want only to commit genocide against the Palestinian people and kill the Palestinian people inside 2 kilometers in one area that is characterized in the world to be the biggest open air prison. They also want to suffocate people. And they say that we will cut electricity, we will cut food supplies, and we will cut water supplies. Taking into consideration that water is polluted in Gaza since several years, and Gaza, according to the classification of the United Nations, is not a proper place for human beings to live in. Taking into consideration 15 years of consecutive blockade against Gaza, suffocating people, and in these 15 years, 5 wars has been committed against the Palestinian people, leaving houses, communities, rubble. People are still, till now, from the past war, living in tents and in shelters up to this moment. So bombing crossing border was also a strike message to the Egypt side, who was trying to facilitate the entrance of humanitarian aid to Gaza through the Rafah border. Unfortunately, if this was happening in different areas of the world, like Ukraine or other parts that suffer struggle, this wouldn't be the case. But with Palestine, no, finish them, commit genocide against Palestinians, commit ethnic cleansing. Like, it's our blood is cheap. Our blood is available. You have to do this. I don't understand. We don't understand this mentality, despite the fact that even the freedom fighters, our freedom fighters, who has been in the settlements around in the Gaza envelope, they were treating the Israelis in a very good way and in a very good manner.
I saw actually a video.
Especially the civilians. This is what I want to highlight.
Yeah.
These stories are never on the Western media. The stories that are on the Western media show always that Palestinians are terrorists, the face of Palestinians are criminals. That's why. But the real face of the Palestinians, first of all, our freedom fighters, they didn't go to cities. They went to settlements. Settlements that surround Gaza are, according to international law, illegal entities. Why? Because they are lands of the Palestinian state of 1967. And under international community, under international law, these settlements are illegal because they are Palestinian lands that has been taken, occupied by the Israeli regime. And another war crime is happening there is that these people who are living in these settlements, they are not innocent civilians. They are settlers. Settlers, they are citizens who choose to live in area that doesn't belong to them in illegal settlements. So according to international law, settlers living in these areas is amount to war crime, and settlements are illegal according to international law. Despite this, our freedom fighters, because we are principled revolution, they treat the civilians in a very good manner, and we have videos that show this.
I actually want to touch on that video. I saw a video that's circulating on social media, especially on Instagram. There was this Israeli woman.
Exactly.
The reporter tried to tried to mislead, and he said, no, but my two children were treated with dignity. One of them actually asked for a banana. And I think to myself that even if you're a Zionist, you're asking, I mean, you have to look at this and say, listen, surely this shows that the freedom fighters of Hamas are only there for one reason. They're there to take on the military of the IDF, not to kill the innocent civilians.
Exactly.
There's your proof right over there, isn't it?
And there is no video that shows that the Israeli ones who has been killed are citizens or children or women. Actually, on the contrary, there are some women who has been taken hostages and they were treated in a very mannered way, let's say.
Ambassador, there's a big warship that's coming from the United States. This is the same Democrat government under Barack Obama, before him, Bill Clinton, that said, no, there must be a two-state solution. No, we want to have peace talks with, it was then Yasser Arafat, where they wanted to have a Palestinian sovereign state. They're calling that. And yet, this is the same Democrat government under Joe Biden, who is having problems in his own country, that is spending $8 million to Israel. Israel's short of no money. They've got enough money. How much does that hurt your government, knowing that on one side of the coin, they want peace, but on the other, they're sending military aid to the Israelis to continue this genocide that's happening?
Actually, this doesn't hurt us. This shows us the real face of the government of US that we are dealing with. It shows us that there is no difference between Democrats or Republicans or anyone. Joe Biden himself is a Zionist, and he announced this several times. Unfortunately, the Palestinian blood is used again by the U.S. administration, the current U.S. administration, as a propaganda for the next elections. You know, Israeli, like Americans, they want the Israeli money to support their campaign. And unfortunately, it's always the Palestinian blood on the table that is used as a pretext for this. Otherwise, U.S. is supposedly to be the peace broker in the Middle East. And in this particular time, in times of contingency, in times of emergency, in times of war, that as a peace broker, you have to be in the middle. You have to be on the same distance from everyone. You take a side very bluntly, and you support the aggressor against the people under occupation. So it shows us the real face of the US and the real face of the Western community that are in total biased for the occupation, for the apartheid regime, for getting all the cliches that they are demonstrating among the international community about human rights, about international law, and about international legitimacy. Unfortunately, this is the world that we are facing right now.
There's actually 8 billion, not 8 billion. I just got corrected. The 8 billion US
Yes.
dollars. And that's a very same country that wants to lay off workers in some of their factories. Ambassador, before we go to the break, so the Israeli army and its president and its defense secretary have been singing the same song all the time, that Hamas is hiding amongst humans in Gaza. I mean, surely that's human civilians. I mean, surely that is the biggest falsified story you could ever find.
Gaza itself is, as I mentioned, it is under blockade. It is only 2 kilometers, and everyone in Gaza is living there. Who are Hamas and who are the civilians? They are both the same, definitely. And if that's correct, Israel, why is shelling and bombing on daily basis civilians? Is the civilians are the targets? The schools are the targets? Do you think that Hamas military will hide in schools or in hospitals or in ambulances or in residential complexes? No. If they have like these surveillance technology that they sell to the whole world, then they should have known where Hamas militias are hiding. But what they want is a genocide. Their fear as fanatics, as the Israeli current government, who are fascist and fanatics, is to reduce the danger of demography in Palestine. And this is their chance, and this is their best way to do so. Yesterday, they request the Palestinian people to flee from Palestine through Rafah border and to go to Egypt.
But they bombed the Rafah border.
Exactly. And to go to Egypt. And then they are also bombing and shelling them, killing. Now we are up to more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed. So by this genocide, they are really looking at the demographic factor, and which constitute like a major factor of danger against the Israeli community.
After the break, I continue my conversation with Ambassador Hanan Jarrar. We're going to be focusing on the future of the Arab world and how they're, of course, looking at the situation. Currently, the ambassador did tell me it's a ministerial meeting of the Arab League. Surely there has to be something that comes out of that for a positive perspective for Palestine. Do stay tuned to Hilaal Live. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. Ambassador, currently as we speak, there's a ministerial meeting that is happening amongst the Arab League. Palestine's Foreign Affairs Minister has, of course, gone to attend this. Surely there has to be something of a positive resolution for the people of Palestine. Now is the time, isn't it?
Of course, it's overdue. But it's the time also in light of the emergency that is happening back in Palestine. We hope like useful resolutions will be taken on that ministerial level, which Palestine has called for. On the other hand, also, we received like statements condemning the Israeli aggression against Palestine from most of the Arab countries, let's say from Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Qatar, Yemen, from everywhere. Even on the this is on the governmental level.
Yes.
On the grassroots level or the communities level, we are witnessing demonstrations supporting the Palestinian right all over the world, particularly in the Arab countries, especially in Jordan, Yemen, Iraq, most of the Arab countries. Yesterday, we heard that Saudi Arabia has announced the halt of the ongoing normalization process that has been in the pipelines in the past months, that has been in the news. The statement of Saudi Arabia was strong, condemning the Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people. We are witnessing some kind of different dynamics among the Arab countries because, you know, What's happening in Palestine is a major factor of stability and peace in the region, the Middle East, and in the world. That's why you see like Western countries are in a position to stand up with Israel. US is the same. And Arab countries also is the same. And we do believe that they know what's going on and they realize that the Palestinians are key players in the area. And no peace and no stability in the Middle East or in the world without solving the Palestinian issue, without achieving a viable, geographical connected Palestinian state. And this is the normal resolution of everything. And this is also the responsibility, not only for the Arab community or the Arab countries, but also the responsibility for the international community. First of all, to provide protection now, yesterday than today for the Palestinian people. And we have been calling for this since the beginning of the year because the Israeli fanatic government since the beginning of the year has a clear crystal agenda to suffocate Palestinians, to kill them. You know, since the beginning of this year, more than 300 Palestinians have been killed by the Israeli government inside West Bank and the Gaza Strip, which gives you an indicator about the reality that Palestinians are living. We ask the international community, including the Arab countries, to provide protection for the Palestinian people, to hold the Israeli war criminals accountable for their deeds in breaching and violating international law. The equation is easy. We want to live and we want to others to live. Israel has to understand this equation. Without understanding this equation, nothing will be achieved, nothing will be solved. The Israeli occupation shall come to an end. The Israeli apartheid regime shall come to an end. This is the right solution. Not the right solution is like always when something happened or emergency happens or war takes place, let's come and let's talk about the symptoms of the illness. No, the illness is the occupation. We have to fix the illness. We have to terminate the illness. Then we will be relieved from the symptoms.
Ambassador, Israel's probably going to be the last apartheid regime, probably the last apartheid state that's going to ever be there. Why would these Arab leaders, and I ask this because it pains me as a Muslim, it pains me even more as an Arab and a Muslim to see these Arab nations normalizing ties with them. I mean, surely it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at what they're doing, and yet you still want to associate yourself with a nation like that.
We say that time is the only factor that will show the Arab states how wrong they were in dealing with an apartheid state and in normalizing with an apartheid state on the expense of the Palestinian people's rights and existence. An apartheid regime is not good with one and bad with others. It is a bad regime. Yes. It's a cancer. So if you don't realize that cancer will come to you in a matter of time, then you are ignorant and it's your fault. We cannot interfere in the decision of Arab countries who choose the path of normalization, but we say that the time will reveal the reality and the fact about an apartheid regime.
Governments can be controlled by money. Governments can be controlled by power. We've seen that with the West. We've seen that with the Arab countries that want to normalize ties with Israel. What cannot be controlled, though, are the people. True. You've mentioned demonstrations. There was a demonstration today in South Africa, 3 cities. South Africa's long history in support of Palestine is there for all to see. Many people did that in the USA, amongst many states. They did it in the United Kingdom. Even Latin American countries like Argentina and Venezuela. The Venezuelan president has come out in strong condemnation of what Israel is doing. That gives hope, doesn't it, that the power of the people are starting to rise up against the governments in voicing their condemnation of their support. Wherever those nations are supporting Israel, that the people are saying, we do not agree with you right there.
Definitely. And this is the right course of history. This is the normal course of history. No apartheid regime can stay forever. No occupation can stay forever. For how long the international community will condone an apartheid regime in the modern history? This will not last. It's a matter of time. And the Palestinian people are very powerful. They are resilient and they are strong. And what we need from the international community, we have friends all over the world. We do not look only at the Western countries and US and cry because they don't support us. No, we have all the South. We can say that. We are part of the South. We affiliate with the South principles and ethics. And we do believe that our strength lies in our allies in the South. We have Latin American countries, we have Asian countries, we have Arab countries. Ourselves, we do believe in the strength of the Palestinian people, and our faith will be liberation. This is what we believe in. This will not last forever. And the biggest lesson for us and the biggest screen in front of our eyes is what happened to the South African apartheid regime.
There's such a comparison right there.
Exactly. We share with, even with African countries, like the African continent in the 60s and 70s was only like a colonial regime, and there were settlements for colonialism. It was the international support, it was the international solidarity that helped these countries to become independent. And this is what we count on. We have friends all over the world. We are an ethical revolution. We stand up for our principles. We do not use the instruments of capitalism or armament to get our right, because we are ethical and we are principled. And we do believe that this is the right path that will lead us to self-determination and to establish our own independent state, even after a while.
Ambassador, I've got one final question for you. Your message to South Africans. Now, it's not just the South Africans that are in support of Palestine. The South Africans who, and unfortunately we do have a handful in this country that are ignorant about the situation. They support Israel because I just woke up one day and I decided to support Israel. Even the South African Jewish Board of Deputies or the South African Zionists who still believe what Israel is doing is right. Just your message to close off this discussion.
We say that people should listen to their consciences. People should learn from history. South African apartheid regime fall in one day because of the international community support and solidarity, and because of the resistance of the South African people who believed firmly in their right to self-determination and in their right for freedom. I do believe that the international community, the South Africans, the Africans should look at history, should revisit history, and should try as much as they can to read and to know the Palestinian narrative, and to support when they can the Palestinian people. And in this regard, I salute the South African political parties, ANC, EFF, SACP,
yes.
All the
COSATU,
all the political parties that has issued statements firmly and strongly supporting the Palestinian right. I salute all the solidarity movement organizations that has been supporting Palestine, organizing pickets yesterday, the day before. Today, there is also a picket in Johannesburg, a picket in Cape Town, another picket in Durban. I salute the South African people, the South African government for their unwavering support and for the principled position. We say as Palestinians, as I mentioned, we are resilient, and the struggle will continue until we materialize our national state.
Ambassador, it's been a pleasure hosting you here. The people of Palestine remain in our du'as and in our hearts, and we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the best result for all of us, not just the people of Palestine and the liberation of Masjid al-Aqsa and Palestine as a whole, but also for the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Shukran so much for joining us, Ambassador. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam. Thank you for hosting us also.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. And as we close off, before we go to, of course, the finance markets and sports news, early today, President Joe Biden said that what was happening to Israel was he compared Hamas to what Adolf Hitler did when, of course, the Holocaust happened, where 6 million Jews were unfortunately killed. And I think to myself, this is coming from a very same president whose government killed thousands and thousands of Iraqis under the pretense that there were weapons of mass destruction. Until today, 20 years on from the Iraqi war, no weapons of mass destruction were found. Ironic, isn't it? Do stay tuned. We'll be back after the break.